It is not always possible to remove every construct or relevant element in an assessment item. For these situations, CAST researcher Tracy Hall advocates inclusion of supports during assessment.
We can't always remove what's construct irrelevant, but what we can do is provide supports for those construct irrelevant pieces of information that may be there for students. So if there is language in the task question that we're asking of the students that is rich and it's helpful for understanding the task perhaps and is very difficult to change, could we provide for the student a glossary that gives them the information about what that word means? Because if it's not related to the construct that's being measured, it doesn't matter. If it is related to the construct being measured, then it's construct relevant and shouldn't change. An example that we often provide is, let's say we're working in social studies or history kinds of things, and we need to remember some kinds of relationships and causes of issues that have occurred in a country's history. Is it key that the student decode each one of the words in the text to give them that background information to prepare for answering a question? I would argue that's construct irrelevant. We're not measuring a student's ability to decode. Rather, we're measuring a student's ability to understand the strategies and the structures of what was occurring in that historical event that may have caused another thing to occur in that country's history. So we could provide text-to-speech for the students. They could listen to and understand from hearing the text versus actually decoding the text, and then still show their understanding of the construct in their response. In assessment, we want to have a level playing field. And in some cases in our instructional episodes, we provide supports and scaffolds for students. We provide assistive technology for some students and so forth. And in the assessment environment, quite frequently, there is a huge question as to whether those kinds of supports, assistive technologies and so forth, are fair. And I just want to turn that around on all of us in our thinking and say, is it fair to measure my understanding of something without the supports that I use to learn how to do that something? Is it fair to measure, for example, my ability to speak in cogent language if I have a hearing impairment, or if I have a language challenge? So we need to look at that notion again of construct relevance, and we need to help decide within that concept of construct relevance, how can we get the best information about the students that we're measuring, and use that information to help us make instructional decisions for the next phases of their instructional learning. And if we don't provide the supports, the assistive technologies and so forth that some students may need for the way in which the measure's been designed, if there are barriers for those students, then I would argue that we're not getting a good inference to the construct, and the decisions that you may be making about the future of that student's instructional goals and objectives may not be accurate for that student because the measurement wasn't accurate of their understanding.